Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Mentorship Monday series. And in the room with us, we have the amazing Rapelang Motsumi. He's a good friend, he's a business partner, he's been a program manager and a facilitator on our programs at YIEDI. And it gives me great pleasure today in welcoming him in his capacity as the founder and the head of the Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Company. Today, Rapelang's going to talk about an extremely important topic, which is company compliance and specifically small business compliance. I mean, just on a call earlier today, I heard how so many businesses fail within the first year of doing business for whatever reason. And I also find in the work that we do in running accelerators, very often companies cannot access supply chains of large corporates because they are not compliance ready. So today, Rapelang's going to be taking us through everything you need to know about compliance. So Rapelang, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Cheshi. I hope my presentation is showing. Okay, that's
It
good.
is.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let me just welcome the entire audience of entrepreneurs that have come through. I know a lot of people that want to know more about compliance. I know it gets to be a very scary topic, but unfortunately, yes, when we come to discuss compliance, we are not coming bearing good news. So I understand that's why. So, but I'm always excited to share with entrepreneurs what compliance is all about, and get to interact with them and troubleshoot some of their compliance challenges. So that's what we are going to do today. So I'm going to take you through the presentation, and then later on, we'll be able to troubleshoot on some of your challenges regarding compliance. So as I said that, I might not be coming bearing good news, and you'll understand why. So, okay, seems like oh, there we go. Yes, so as I said that I'm not coming bearing good news. So the first thing to understand is that there are over 100 pieces of legislation to comply with. And that already makes everyone very, 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 very uncomfortable, because this is really scary stuff and a lot of work to do. So, I mean, piece of legislation we're talking about either being is the tax legislation, the Companies Act, and many other regulations that you have to follow to make sure that you are compliant. So the whole purpose of what we are trying to do today, and I should have said this at the beginning, that this is not a legal session or an accounting session. This is us looking at compliance, on how we can leverage compliance so that we can be able to either be in good standing with the law or be able to leverage compliance for supply chain readiness. Because at the end of the day, for you to be supply chain readiness, you have to be compliance ready. And that is what we will be focusing on today, just so that we can see what compliance is mostly about. So we are saying that compliance, you have to, why compliance matters, why is it a big deal, is because there are pieces of legislation for you to look at and be able to be compliant with, as long as you are a registered business. And we also say that compliance is intrinsically linked to your ability to sell. So meaning that if you don't have compliance, then you can't sell. You have compliance, then it unlocks procurement opportunities, because you're able to be in supply chain databases and vendor databases, where you have to have submitted some of the requirements, which some of them are compliance requirements. So, and we are saying that compliance can be a barrier to entry in unlocking business opportunities. Hence, we are saying that if your compliance is not in order, you have sabotaged yourself in terms of access to markets, because access to market means compliance readiness, means that you have to have all your compliance in order and all your documents in order. So not being compliant is a self-inflicted barrier to entry that you have just inflicted upon yourself. So, and also to understand that procurement is very rigid. If they say they need this, that is what they need. You need to have it. If they say the tax clearance have to be in order, or the pin, the text pin has to be in order because it's a live pin. So that's what they are looking for. So sometimes entrepreneurs tend to think that, no, maybe they can be a little bit relaxed for me on certain things. Procurement is rigid. If the call come out and say, for you to submit for RFQ, submit for tender, submit for contract, these are the requirements. It's rigid. You can't try to be somewhat not flexible about it. Just provide what is being required. So we also say that if you think compliance is expensive, try non-compliant, because obviously a lot of entrepreneurs are complaining compliance is so expensive because it costs a lot of money. I met another entrepreneur recently, so they're into petroleum and logistics and things like that. So, and I asked him, how much do you spend just to be compliant and get ready to start the business? And compliance just to enter the market. And he told me that they had just spent 250,000 just to gather the much needed compliance requirements for them just to enter the market. Not even the compliance where is a maintenance, where you are now already compliant, but now you are maintaining the compliance, and then there are costs to maintaining that compliance. No, this was just the compliance to enter the market and enter the industry. So that is what they were looking at. And also we're saying that for it to be an easy flow for you, you have to make sure that compliance become part of the business process. Because in most of the cases, what entrepreneurs do, we are more reactive. So we want to be compliant as and when we're applying for a contract or a tender or an RFQ, and the due date is now. That's when you are running around because you're looking for the date is closing for that opportunity. Now you are being reactive. You are looking for your documents, you are looking for tax clearance, you are looking, and now you get there on your e-filing, then you realize that there is non-compliance on other submission of other things, and then returns and things like that. And then you realize that it's going to take 21 days for SARS to come back to you. And then before you know it, the opportunity is gone. So with compliance, you don't have to be reactive. So you have to be proactive at all times. So I always advise entrepreneurs to say that have a compliance file of your business, so that you know that whatever you're applying for, all the documents are ready. And I'm going to also take you through the compliance checklist so that you can see in the checklist what are the most common documents or compliance requirements that are needed when you are bidding for opportunities and applying for some of these opportunities. So I will take you through the entire compliance checklist so that when we say compliance, you actually see what are the areas of compliance of importance that we are talking about, especially as it relates to small businesses. Hence, we are saying small business compliance, because compliance is broad, but we are focusing on small business compliance as it relates to your ability to be supply chain ready and be able to enter the vendor database of different companies, what will be required in some of those. So among other things, why compliance is important is that you've got to be formalized. So as you know that in South Africa, you can just wake up, set up business. Is not mandatory for registration, but obviously business is about perception, and business is about perception, because when you are more formalized, people perceive you to be a serious business they can trust, that they can do business with, because, for compliance reasons. And also in terms of governance, they are more interested in how the company is managed and controlled. So who are the people driving the business? What are the CVs of the directors? What is the experience of the directors that are driving the business? So governance becomes important. I mean, I was assisting, actually recently, there's an ongoing call for application that I'm assisting two other organizations. They are non-profit organization. So part of the requirement there is to see what the governance structure and system is set up like. Who are the team that are behind that organization? What are their reputation and track record and things like that. So governance become important. And I always say that it's important to bring in all these governance structures and system in place as a small business, so that you grow them into the business. While you are evolving, you don't struggle with governance when you become a big business, you have already internalized it in your organization while you were young, and then you just kind of like transition nicely into a big business with strong governance systems and principles in place. So with funding as well, it's very, very important compliance there, because every funding that you're going to apply for, there's going to be a due diligence that is required. Part of the due diligence is this compliance requirements that will be needed. And I remember I was assisting also one of the ladies with the IDC application. She was applying for IDC and she wanted millions from IDC. And I think one thing that entrepreneurs don't realize is that the more money you are looking for, the more compliance becomes so strict and becomes so onerous and becomes so heavy. So because everyone just wake up and say that, hey, I want 10 million, I want 50 million. Then they think that someone will just give them all that money without proper due diligence and to see if you are in a position to be able to pay back that money. So part of the compliance for funding can be very rigorous depending on how much money you are looking for. So now I referred her to a corporate finance specialist. The guy specialized with structured finance. So then he brought the lady the funding pack that he had prepared for another client. And then the funding pack was a huge document, which included the business plan, which included compliance documents, which included all the contracts in place and things like that. So, and the lady's application was such a small document. So then she could already see that, there's no way that she's going to get funding with such. And then in terms of the RFQ as well, and the RFP and the tenders, so we'll unpack it as we move along so that you can also see what is required there. But what is important is for you to be able to be registered with the central supplier database and be able, because the central supplier database was introduced to manage all the compliance for all the companies that do business with government, so that there's a centralized database and is a central repository for all the compliance across the board, and it's a live compliance because then it's linked with Home Affairs to verify the IDs of directors. It's linked with CIPC to check if the company is in good standing with regards to their annual returns, if the company is in business, and it's also linked with the banks to see if the bank accounts are active and they're running. It's linked with multiple government institutions to really see, to simplify the compliance on behalf of the state. So also doing business with corporates. So I always say that it's tricky with corporates because the compliance there, it differs from one company to the next. With government, at least you know that you have to meet the requirements of the central supplier database you submit there, and then you have to go through the SBD forms and complete the SBD forms, and then do the submission, and then look at the requirements and the guidelines of the RFQ and the guidelines of the tenders and follow that. And then, it can become much more predictable. But now with corporate, they set up their own system. So you might think that you are fully compliant because you did a contract with this corporate, and then the next thing you go for another opportunity with another corporate, and then they're looking for some of the compliance that you don't have. So that's why I'm saying that always stay ready, because you don't know what the next organization and company they're going to look from you. So also it's very important to know, as you are doing the submission, the people that are selecting, that are part of the selection process, or that are doing the adjudication, how do they think? What are they looking for? Because people just submit, they don't even try to think about what are these people really looking for, as they're going to consider my application. So you have to think like the committee that is making this decision. So part of the important thing also is that they are looking at they're doing a whole rigorous due diligence, which it's the compliance due diligence. And nowadays there's something very funny that they are doing, that even your online presence has become part of a due diligence. People are stalking you on your social media. If you are not careful what you are posting, that has become part of your due diligence if you don't know. So I remember I was talking to another gentleman when we were applying for to do business with this big corporate multinational corp, because so he was like, because they don't know you and documents you are submitting they're not enough. Part of what they're going to do is to check you out online as to, you know, to find out more about your work. And if you don't post about your work, then you are also limiting part of the due diligence process that they embark on as they're doing this selection to see if you're an eligible service provider that they would like to work with, because some of the stuff there might not be enough. They want to see more, you know. So the more you post your stuff, that gives you an advantage as part of the due diligence that they will include online presence, social media, and all those type of things. And also use associate model and collaborate with other compliance partners. And this is very important because we'll also touch on the cost of compliance. So because compliance can be costly, you might not be able to be compliant across the board and have all the compliance in order. So that's why you need to build through the associate model, where you have various associates around, and you have all the other compliance partners that you collaborate with, so that what you are not compliant in, you are able to enter an opportunity or a contract with a compliance partner that has all the requirements that you do not have, and then you can partner for and collaborate for an opportunity. You know, for instance, how we normally do it with Jayshree, especially that, you know, when you do trainings, sometimes there are accreditations that are required and multiple of accreditations that are needed for the opportunities that you'll be applying for. So you may not need to apply and register for all those accreditations because it's costly. Some of the things you are not even going to use, or you're only going to use once and you'll never use them again. So you don't have to pay for them because, you know, they can be quite expensive. So then you find these compliance partners that you can go into business with, so that you can be able to go for those opportunities where ordinarily you wouldn't apply for them because you are limited by your compliance, and you can't afford to enter into certain compliance. And also, it's very important for you as you do the application to enhance your compliance by joining associations and regulatory bodies and acquire certain licenses and accreditation, much more than what is needed. And I'm going to show you the profile of one of the beneficiaries, who's Tato. He gave me the permission to share his profile just to show you what he has. And some of these things, when you are bidding for the same opportunity with other potential service providers, you need to have much more than what the rest of the people have. And these are the things that can set you apart from the rest of the people that have applied for the same opportunity. So that's why the more of them you have, the more you stand out, you know, and be able to win some of those opportunities. So there are also memberships with other organizations, such as, you know, the South African Supplier Diversity Council. So what the South African Supplier Diversity Council do, they vet Black suppliers, and then they check all your compliance and make you their vetted supplier, because companies are their members, and to unlock procurement opportunities, companies registers with them, and then they do the vetting of the vendors on behalf of these corporates, so that when the corporates are looking for Black suppliers in certain services, in certain industries, they just go to SASDEC and say that, give us, you know, 3 suppliers in this particular product. So they have already vetted you as a Black supplier in terms of your BE and also in terms of your compliance. So then it makes it easy for corporates when they go there. You're already vetted supplier. You also have your SASDEC certificate to say that I'm a vetted supplier. So that can like give you much more credibility, because there's a third party that has looked into your organization and vetted you as a supplier and done some due diligence in your organization. And also part of the adjudication criteria, you're looking at the experience of your company. You have to show the work. What have you done? show the work that you have done. That's part of the adjudication criteria. What's the track record? What's the reference? What's the recommendation? What's the CV of the directors and the team? And what is the reputation of the company? And also one important thing is the price. Are you selling at the right price? Sometimes it can be the lowest price, not all the time. And also was the quality as well as the BE rating. You will see in some of the adjudication criteria, it will have 80-20, some of them 90-10. So where 80% will be price, 20% will be BE, or 90% price, or 10% triple BE. So those are the things that you need to look out for. And also, you can look for some of those opportunities if you are looking for contracts, RFQs and tenders and things like that by using the etender.gov. I mean, there are other platforms, online tenders, SA tenders, Green Gazette, so there are many other platforms where you can look out for if you are looking for contracts and RFQs and the tenders online. And then this is just an assignment that I'm going to give you as we continue. And I do this exercise to assist entrepreneurs to keep their compliance in check. So I always say that, many entrepreneurs don't know that government is huge. And there are more than 900 government entities, in South Africa. And those government entities procures every day, every single day. So all what you can do just to keep yourself in check in terms of compliance. So just respond to an RFQ or a tender maybe once a month, because it will require you to check your CSD, the Central Supplier Database, if everything is in order there. And also to keep going to these tender briefings, you will get more information about what are the new industry standards and opportunities, and what are the new things, and you also meet other service providers, who do what you do, and then you can network from there and learn more from this. And I've seen that a lot of entrepreneurs don't take advantage of that. So what is the cost now of compliance? Obviously, you've got for certain things that you can't do yourself, and most of the things now, at least they have been simplified that anyone can do stuff themselves if you don't want to pay an external consultant on that. So, I mean, with other third parties, those are mostly your accountants and lawyers that can do some of these compliance service on your behalf. Hence, in the beginning, I said I met one of the entrepreneurs who had just started a company into petroleum and also logistics. So he had just spent 250,000 just on compliance, before he started the business. Those are the initial setup costs, and compliance has costed him 250,000 before he even invoiced. So other industries and other areas, compliance can be quite expensive, and other areas, some of the stuff you can't even do them yourself. You need a third party to do that for yourself. You need a consultant, you need an accountant, you need a lawyer to do those things on your behalf. And some of the things also that keeps compliance costs high as well, and all the time where you have to pay. So those are the renewal fees and the letters of good standing that are ongoing that you have to be paying for from time to time. And then hence I'm saying that where you can try to partner with other compliance partners that are already compliant in the area where you are not that compliant. I'm just going to quickly, Jayashree, share the other, I know that we are running out of time, but let me just quickly share this.
You're doing well for time, Rapelang. It's fine. And this is such an important topic, so we can go a little bit over. So please feel free to carry on.
Okay, no, fantastic. Let me just look for this presentation.
In the meantime, while Rapelang's just getting that presentation up and running, if I can ask that you please put your questions in the chat, if you have any questions. Is it easily accessible, Rapelang? Do you mind if we take some
Yes,
questions?
I got it now.
Great.
So I promised to show you the Maforite profile. So also, depending on what you do, reflecting compliance in your profile can be quite important as well upfront. Some of the industry, it might not be that much of a necessity. So your profile also can become that as well, showcasing your profile. So you see the way he starts, he's saying the Mafrite is a level 1 triple BE. So that's a big one right there. We know the BE status now. That is, it's 100% Black owned and also 51% women ownership. So that's a big one already, because we know that there's women ownership and is a majority women owned business, which is quite key. Look at now the partnerships. So they have partnerships with more other industry related partners that are operating within the industry. So, I mean, look at the DSTV accredited installer, look at the TASAs, look at all of these partnerships that they have, and the ISO standards that they also have. So that can like also give them that competitive advantage over the rest of the other people applying for the same opportunity. Because remember, every time you're applying for something, there are many other people that are applying. What will make you stand out? And I vouch for compliance, that you can leverage compliance to also bring in some of these things, just add them up and bulk them up as much as you can, so that you can be able to stand out from the rest of the people who are applying for the same opportunity. Because if you are doing the same thing and have the same thing as them, what are the chances that you're going to be able to get that procurement opportunity? So that's why you go all out on compliance and get all this partnership, whatever partnership out there, depending on your industry. So you get some of those things. And then there's also some of the compliance stuff. Oh, you see, here the accreditation. They've got all sorts of accreditation that they have stated on their profile. Molex certified installer, certified fiber optic technician, smart technology, CIDB, because sometimes they have to do trenching, and trenching will require CIDB as they install fiber and things like that. So LG Ericsson, you know, accredited Legal Wave Wireless, accredited DTT, and satellite install. So all of these accreditation to showcase them that there are other third-party institutions that have confidence on you. So it gives an impression that you have passed through all those hoops of credibility and reputation, that you have been trusted in the market by other accreditors and institutions and bodies and parties and all sorts of things. So it makes it easy for the client to trust you, because you've been trusted by other institutions. And then the last one, then he just show his company registrations and tax numbers and VAT and CSD registration and things like that. So those are some of the things that are quite important. So I will just end with the compliance checklist, which I will run through quickly and then give back to Jayshree. So here I've just tried to simplify your compliance journey to see what is this compliance that we are talking about, and these requirements that we are talking about that you need to submit as and when you are responding to RFQs and contracts and opportunities and tenders and all sorts of things. So these are just some of them, not all of them, but I think on high level, these are some of the most important ones. So company registration, that's an obvious one with the CIPC. And then CIPC annual returns. So we don't have time to unpack the BO that is now part of the requirement before you submit the annual return, which is troubling a lot of entrepreneurs. And
Sorry,
then
Rapelang, can I interrupt and interject there? Because we've been getting a lot of requests for more information on beneficial ownership. So if you can just touch on that BO, because it has become a stumbling block for so many businesses wanting to get their certificates online. So can you just touch on that a little bit, please?
yeah, so it's just a new change that has come in, because initially, remember, when you submit your annual returns, you had to just focus on the financial accountability supplement if you are not required to submit annual financial statements. then you do the FAS instead of the AFS. So now they've introduced the beneficial ownership to indicate who is the real owner and shareholder of the company, and who's going to take fiduciary duties and responsibilities of the company. And then there's a whole lot of documents required there. But the things that the system will guide you, just that if we had enough time, we'll go into details as to what you click, what you get into, and things like that. So, but I know with our sessions in the program, we are able to have time to unpack, you know, that in much more details. But in the interest of time, maybe I can take that offline, yeah, just so that I can be able to complete with the rest, Jayshree. And then also the share certificate. So share certificate is quite important as well, to indicate who are the shareholders and how much shareholding they have. So it can be a share certificate or share register. So the share register will have a list of the shareholders in the company. And then are you registered with any industry regulatory body of your sector? So industry body, there we're talking about all these licenses that we spoke about, and other regulatory bodies such as CIDB for the guys that are into construction, and many other industry bodies that are operating, that oversee practice in various industries out there. So that you need to register with them and continue to renew those license fees annually. And then do you have memorandum of incorporation in your possession? Because the memorandum of incorporation will be there. The question is, do you have it in your possession? Because people don't retrieve them, or someone registered for you the company, they just gave you a COR 14.3, but they didn't give you the 15.1, which is the memorandum of incorporation together with the COR 14.1 and 14.1A. So, and I always say that when you submit, when they say company registration documents, make sure you have all of them. You have your 14.3, which is your actual registration certificate. And then you'll also have your COR 15.1A, 14.1, and 14.1A. Submit everything together, because people tend to submit wrong documents thinking that is a registration certificate, only to find they're submitting something else because they are not familiar with the form codes that are required in terms of the registration. And then shareholders agreement. So this is different from the share certificate, because a lot of people confuse shareholder agreement and share certificate. So share certificate is just there to say who's the shareholder and how much shareholding they have. And then shareholders agreement, this is a document that regulates the relationship between directors, to say that, and is needed also in case you have to state things like what's going to happen if the director is deceased or the director is permanently incapacitated, what's going to happen with the rest of the what's going to happen to their shareholding, you know. And then that's where you have some of those first loss rights, to say that we have the rights to buy back the shares of the deceased director as the present directors, you know, because if that is not the case, without a shareholders agreement, the share will pass on maybe to the spouse or to the family, and then you have to go through the whole process of the deeds. So they're just complicated legal requirements. And then, do you have contract of employment with your company? There's not a contract of employment with your employees. This is with yourself as a director, because you are employee number one of the company. And also it helps when you do the financials, because now as you pay yourself, it's clear that you are not able to always pay yourself as a company. And it can be very helpful if you have contract of employment that states how much are you getting paid as a director, so that when you do your financials, you go to your accountant or your bookkeeper, so they are able to account for unpaid director fees, because then they're going to take those fees into the loans account. And then from there, we can say they're unpaid fees, which means that the company owes you. So then you can account for that as a loss in your next financial year end, or offset it in the next financial year end, and that will reduce your taxable income. So there's a benefit to that as well. And then, do you have a written company profile or document? So I've just shown you the Maforite company profile there. So a profile is very key and very important. So do you have a trademark of your company? So sometimes people, once they have done name reservation and they have the name of the company registered, they think the name is protected. Your name can only be protected if you've done a full trademark registration of your name. So there's a difference between name reservation and the trademark. Your name is only legally protected once you have trademarked it, which is a separate IP process. And then, are you fully inclined with labor compliance? So that's very key. And have you patented your concept? You know, if you are into innovation and technology and you want to patent your idea, are you fully registered for income tax as a company? And tax return, are they up to date? And tax clearance or tax PIN, which is a live PIN, is no longer just a tax clearance. It's a live PIN which can expire and be invalid at any time when there's outstanding tax returns. And also, are you VAT registered? So there are requirements to register for VAT. If you're over R1 million, it's mandatory. If you're less than R1 million, you can opt for a voluntary VAT registration if your turnover is more than 50,000. And then, are you registered for UIF as a company? Are you also registered for PAYE, pay as you earn? And are you registered for COID as well, which is the compensation of occupational injuries and diseases? So with the Compensation House and the Department of Labor. So those are just sometimes some of the industries, if you're into construction, and some of those where employees are exposed to risk and danger. So they will definitely require you to be registered with COID. So some of the industries, it might not be that much of a requirement. Are you registered for e-filing? And are you in control of your e-filing? Sometimes, you know, entrepreneurs just give e-filing to the accountant. They have no idea what's happening in their e-filing there. And the next thing, there are penalties and all sorts of non-compliance on their company profile. Now they need a tax PIN or tax clearance. They can't get it because they're not even aware what's going on in their company profile. So do you have a B certificate on affidavit? So that's a big one. If we had time, we will touch a lot more on the BE compliance, but that's a subject for another day. And are you registered for CSD, as we have spoken about? So this is just a general idea on what could be required for anything that you might want to apply for to unlock procurement opportunities and be able to be get into supplier databases or vendor database and things like that. So I won't go much into other stuff because I see we're run out of time, so that I can just allow Jayashree to facilitate for any question, and then we can start troubleshooting for where there are questions, and then we can move in that direction. Thank you, Jayashree.
Thank you so much, Rapelang. And I know you felt, or we felt like you were speeding through some of the stuff, but the important thing is that you will have this as a recording. You can pause, you can reflect, you can take in what Rapelang was saying, and maybe what we can touch on the BE compliance, triple BE compliance, because that is quite an important one. If your turnover is under 10 million, you can actually just do an affidavit, and that affidavit template is downloadable. But you can also get that document from SIPC, and you can download a professional looking triple BE affidavit on there as well. What we will do is we will engage with Rapelang after the session, and maybe Rapelang, if we can just document some of this in terms of what do you need to do for beneficial ownership, because I know we had to do this, and it's basically letters that you need to sign as the owner and from the business giving you permission as the owner, so that it shows that you are the owner of the business. And those documents need to be uploaded before you can access your profile and all of that on SIPC. I want to also touch on what Rapelang spoke about in terms of the profile. And we know, because we're doing this all the time, we're having to submit documents for approval. So even though you may be turning over under 10 million and you're regarded as an EME, which is an exempt micro enterprise, you may still need to submit financials. So you might not need annual financial statements, but you will still need financial statements, and that can be done by your accountant. So depending on the organization and what they're asking for. Now, when we deliver compliance as part of the accelerators that we deliver, and some of you are on those accelerators, the compliance module is still coming. This is a mentorship session where we touch on areas that you might have to go and investigate and get the information, do the checklist, find out what you're missing, and try and research and make sure you are compliant. So already I know at the end of this month, my BE certificate will be expiring. The tricky part is I can't get a new one until the old one, reaches expiration. However, you need to keep track of what documents are expiring and on what date so that you can request that in time. I said recently, your company profile and your business model canvas must become like your CV. It must be always up to date. Like Rapelang said, your compliance as a business has to be up to date because you don't want to miss the opportunity to unlock an opportunity with a particular RFP, request for proposal, or request for quotation if you do not have your compliance in order. So that's really, really important. So now I'm going to go over to the chats and see if there are any questions. Thank you, Mercy. Mercy has given us the acronyms. RFQ is request for quotation, as you rightfully said, and RFP is a request for proposal. I must say, when people see my business is registered, they take me seriously. So you're right, being compliant helps with formalization. And as some of you heard at a recent Womex Connect session that we ran from a financial institution, it's also important to have a business account because most companies will also ask you for proof of your business account or proof of banking details. And it's highly unlikely you're going to unlock opportunities with major institutions if you have a private account and not a business account. Rapelang, is that something you want to add on? I just want to look. There is one other comment from Alice. It says, when is the right time to register with pay as you earn and UIF as a startup company? You want to answer that, Rapelang?
Yeah, well, in terms of the UIF and the pay as you earn, in some instances they would just say that they would just put a requirement to say, after a certain amount of time when you are registered for a company, you need to be registered for pay as you earn. But sometimes you go to SARS, then the consultant advise you that when you are alone, is not that necessary, because you're still going to submit your income tax for the RP6, individually. And once it's been captured, then there might not be necessity to do the reconciliation because to register for the PAYE is for you to be able to do reconciliation to show how much the company has spent, has deducted from the employees in terms of the PAYE and the monies paid to SARA. So they're just doing a recon of what has been paid and what is in the return. So it's just a process to really show that. So sometimes, as long as you are doing your RP6 as a individually, it might not be that much of a need because you are not going to have to do a recon, So so that's the only thing. So yeah, but sometimes things like the UIFs and all of that, because as a director, you're not going to also pay the UIF because it's for employees. So even though you are an employee, but as a director, you're not going to be paying that employee, that UIF as an entrepreneur. So sometimes you just register for these things so that you can have them so that when they are required, because some of the requirements, you don't have time to explain to people that it's actually not necessary under these circumstances. They're not going to understand. So if you have to register for UIF, you just have that UIF number so that you can have it ready whenever is a requirement in what you're applying for, you have it. The same as the PAYE, you register for it, and then if it's a requirement, then you have it handy, because these registrations can take time. And if you are wanting to apply for something that is closing in 48 hours, definitely you are out. You're not going to be able to register for some of those. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Rapelang. And please feel free to raise your hands. I will ask you to unmute. I'm just going to get to a few more questions, Rapelang. Is it compulsory to have all these documents when your business is a few months old?
There are requirements that are standard across the board, that whether a business is 1 day or the business is, it doesn't matter how many years it has. They are just standard requirements that you need to have. So and some of those could be the tax compliance is just standard across. Some of those, it could be just having a profile, most of some of those things that we have mentioned there in the checklist. So you may need to have them if they really apply to your business and your industry, and just have it handy, because you might be a few months old but wanting to bid for an opportunity, and there will be those requirements that applies. They don't care whether you are a one day old business or you are a 10-year-old business. Those requirements will be standard.
Thank you so much, Rapelang. I see, Franz, you've got your hands up. Feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to learn. And it's really important that we know that we need to follow compliance. My question is actually a concern. We submit our annual returns through LEADER, and we've had an issue whereby we submitted them last year, June 2024, for 2023 and 2024, and the response has been that they're still waiting for CIPC to update their system. And when we apply for everything else, we are not we submit those that are not audited because of that. And can that affect our progress, our compliance as a company?
Which annual returns are you talking about? Are you talking about CIPC annual returns or the tax returns?
Is the CIPC ones.
Okay,
we
so you are
through
saying,
LEADER. Yes, we are waiting for, they say they are waiting for CIPC.
You say you submit through what?
Through LEADER, LEDA. They are the ones who assist us with our annual returns.
Oh, so these are consultants.
Yes, it's a government organization that assists corporates and small companies. So we go to them for assistance with compliance and everything. So last year when we submitted, we've been waiting since last year, June, until now. And when we ask, they say they are waiting. They say CIPC says that they're still updating their system. So even when we apply for everything else, we are not able to submit the audited ones because we're still waiting.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is something that you can do yourself. I mean, if you just know the process of how to complete the beneficial ownership. So then once the beneficial ownership is updated, then it will allow you to file the annual return. And this can just take a day. So I wouldn't understand why it takes almost a year to do that if it's something that you can do for yourself. So I don't think they are on top of it. There could be some of the things that they are not saying, but definitely they are not on top of it. So that process, you can just do it for yourself. It can just take a day, and then you are compliant with the annual returns. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
I think it's
Yes, thank you
important.
very much.
Yeah, I think it's important to get your login details so that you can access your SIPC profile. For everyone on the line, take ownership of your compliance and get those login details from any supplier that you are using to help you with this. Because like Rapelang said, you should be able to go in, and it's just about capturing those figures on the document online so that you are able to get these important forms that you need and submit it on time as well. You know, that's a very, very important lesson that we've had to learn for our business as well. Wendy, I see your hand up. Please, can you unmute and ask your question?
Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is, I owe CIPC and also my annual returns are not paid fully. I had a consultant that I trusted, but unfortunately, he didn't keep up to his promise. So now what I want to ask is that, can I negotiate with SARS and then ask them to pay them like a certain fee until I pay the full amount? And that's my question.
You say the tax returns or you have outstanding tax returns, you entrusted that to accountants, they didn't file the tax returns as it should. Now they are in penalties or if I'm
Yes,
understanding well.
yes,
So,
yes, sir.
okay, so the question is?
The question
Can
is,
she
I
make
don't
an
have,
arrangement? Is she able to make an arrangement to get that sorted out, and how does she go about that?
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
you can file the you can have the returns filed either by yourself or another accountant or something like that, and then once I mean it's going to give you the bill as to how much is the tax liability on your part, and then give you the reference. If you have the money to pay, then you can do all the payment, because I'm not sure how much you owe, and if you're in a position to settle the that tax liability. If that is not the case, yes, and try enter some payment arrangement and things like that. And then yeah, then depending on your affordability, then you can be able to have that sorted out. But sometimes it does, unfortunately, it might hold up the process for your tax PIN. And once there's non-compliance of the outstanding debt on your site, so when you go to my compliance profile, so it's just going to say not compliant, and then it's not going to release for you the tax PIN, and then your CSD as well is not going to update to give you that to be able to retrieve the CSD profile.
And I think that's an important point, Rapelang, because what many businesses don't realize is once you create your CSD profile, it pulls through all of the information from SARS and from SIPC to show whether you are compliant or not. So any government organization that you are trying to work with will check on your CSD profile, and all that information will pull through. So whether or not you submit separate tax clearance PINs as well as BE certificates, all that information is pulling through that central supplier database. So just be aware that, and there is a difference, and I think a lot of businesses don't get this, Rapelang, that the annual returns needs to be filed on SIPC, and that is different to your tax returns, which need to be done. But the two obviously tie into one another. And if you don't do one or the other, you are not compliant. So there is a difference. Someone said on the chat, Rapelang, that all of these acronyms are stressing them out. Don't be afraid by acronyms. It's better to know what you don't know. It's better to know what you are not compliant in. Ignorance is not bliss in the case of compliance. So the more you know, the more you understand what you need to complete and by when, and keep up to date with your compliance. So I think we have time, Rapelang, for one more question. If there is a burning question, please raise your hand and I will direct the question to you. If not, I see someone, thank you, Ernest. Someone says, Ernest says you can contact him. We will also be sharing Rapelang's details. We have quite a few businesses that can assist with returns and annual returns. Choose a reputable service provider. So we will be sharing Rapelang's details. We trust Rapelang. We've worked with Rapelang, and you are welcome to contact any other specialist that can assist you with this, but make sure they're a reputable one. So are there any other questions? I see there aren't any hands up, Rapelang. Do you have closing comments for us?
I think I'll also touch on the earlier one that was asked. I think it was on the bank account. So I always say that, also because sometimes some of the businesses' bank accounts goes dormant when they don't operate and there's no cash activities in the account. So where, the bank can summarily close the bank account. So it's also very important to keep your account active, because sometimes you find that you're applying for an opportunity and your bank account has since been closed. You're not even aware, and you have other directors, and to open a bank account now, they're going to need the presence of other directors, and they're not around. They are Eastern Cape, you are in Joburg, and so it can be a little bit tricky. So make sure that your bank account, even if you are not utilizing the account, so just keep some money there to maintain the account active, so that the bank does not because also sometimes the bank account date can be used to determine how long has the business been active. So if you come with a bank account that you have just opened last week and you've bidded for an opportunity, it already gives an impression that your company has been dormant. So now you are just reactivating the account simply because of this opportunity, but you have not been in business. But if you have been maintaining it, there is nothing that will show that you have not been operational. So to maintain a bank account, even when your company is dormant, so it can help you in such situations.
Thank you.
Just to close off, thank you so much for giving me an ear. I hope that this session was able to be helpful to some of you that might have struggles with compliance. I know we all struggle with compliance. It's never easy for all of us. We can be having some SARS issues there and some other regulatory issues here and there. So I really am thankful for you having come through today and then being part of this session. I hope you have learned a lot, and I believe Jaishu will post the session for those who want to follow up, to listen more and be able to share with other entrepreneurs as well. Thank you, Jaishu.
Thank you so much, Rapelang. It's always such a pleasure listening to you. I can guarantee you after today's session, I'm probably going to call Rapelang and ask him a couple of things about my compliance, as I always do. I see we have one hand up. We have completed the question, but Patricia, I'll allow a quick question and then we'll say goodbye to Rapelang.
Thank you, Rapelang, for the session. Lovely. Just quickly, with regards to the compliance checklist, can we have that in an Excel format?
Absolutely. So Patricia, you on the WOMEX program, so that list has been shared with you already on a Word format, but we will reshare it with everyone that registered for this session as well. So a format of it has a version of it has been shared with you. So we will reshare with everyone that's registered so all of you can benefit from it as well. But thanks for that question. Okay, so everyone, thank you again for attending today's session with Rapelang. I do want to just touch on one or two points, that Rapelang brought up. He used the example of Tato, and that's quite a relevant example also to keep up to date with where are you located. I mean, opportunities may be lost because your location on your company registration might not be exactly where you are running your business from. So keep those little bits of information updated as often as possible. We've seen recently, we had an opportunity to bring in businesses from Gauteng, only to find out that they were businesses operating in Gauteng, but the company registration says something differently. So remember, what's on those documents is what you will be judged against. So make sure that that information is up to date. Your directors, are they still fully aware of what you're doing in your business, and are they there for the sake of being there? There's quite a bit of clamping down on what companies refer to as fronting. So don't bring in individuals if they are not actively involved in your business, because interrogations will be done by most companies in terms of who's on your business, who's working in your business, who are the directors, and the roles that they play as well. So with that, it's been a jam-packed compliance session. We could not have done it without you, Rapelang. Thank you so much for always sharing your knowledge in this space. We will share as much information as we can after the session, try and clarify all of those acronyms. Brandon and I will work on that. Rapelang, we'll call on you to give us some information. And have a wonderful, wonderful Monday, everyone. Don't be stressed by acronyms. Don't be stressed by what you don't have. At least now you're in a position to fix anything compliance related, because you are aware of what's missing in your business. Thank you, Rapelang. Thank you, Brandon. And bye, everyone.
Thank you.